It's a terrific Thursday to talk the Niger Delta region. Many thanks for joining us this afternoon. My name is Xavier Robert. We'll be looking at some very pertinent issues, starting with Rivers State today, a region of the Niger Delta lately rocked by political uncertainty, but also seeing real glimpse of stability recently as talks of peace deals and power-sharing arrangements surface. So the big question remains, what is a true path to lasting political stability in Rivers? And is compromise the key, or are deeper reforms needed? We'll also talk culinary tourism and how to sell the Niger Delta through food. Well, you know that food is more than just sustenance. It's culture, identity, and increasingly a driver of tourism. Across the world, destinations are now attracting visitors through the power of their cuisine. So how can regions like the Niger Delta, with its rich culture and diverse food heritage, tap into this growing trend? It's a packed program, so I'm inviting you to stick with me as we go through this. But first, let's bring you our story of interest, which is in Cross River State. The government has pledged to restore order in the water sector after over 13 years without regulation. At a stakeholder meeting in Calabar, officials described the situation as critical, citing the unchecked spread of boreholes and the health risks of unregulated water sources. Well, the recently signed water law is expected to address these challenges by enforcing standards, protecting public health, and ensuring fair access to safe water. Now, during the meeting, the government also called for private sector support, while water practitioners appealed for training and incentives to meet the new regulatory requirement. Well, to begin with, 13 years without regulation is in a sector as essential as water is not just an administrative gap, it is a public health time bomb. And the unchecked drilling of boreholes, coupled with no unified standards for water quality, essentially created a free-for-all where anyone with the means could tap underground water regardless of safety protocols or environmental impact. Now, this is particularly dangerous in urban areas like Calabar, where population density amplifies contamination risks. So the newly signed water law is long overdue. It represents a significant step toward establishing standards, protecting health, and ensuring equitable access. Now, these are not just policy aspirations, they are rights. And it is commendable that the state is finally moving in this direction. But here's where the story demands deeper scrutiny. First, how enforceable is the new law? It's one thing to sign a law, it's another to implement it across both rural and urban areas. Now, the capacity of regulatory bodies, the political will to crack down on illegal borehole drilling, and the funding to monitor compliance will all determine whether this is just policy on paper or if it's going to see the light of day. Now, second, the story mentions a call for private sector support. That's important. Water delivery is capital intensive and private sector innovation can help. But without a transparent framework, this could create a water economy skewed in favor of profit rather than public good. Now, how will Cross River ensure that poor and rural communities aren't priced out of safe water access? The third thing to consider would be the stakeholder engagement, which is a good sign. Practitioners are already asking for training and incentives to comply with the new law. This suggests readiness to cooperate, but it also underlines a gap in technical capacity. Talking about what timeline is the government setting to build this capacity and how will it fund these incentives? And let's not also ignore the environmental angle to all of this. The years of indiscriminate borehole digging can lower groundwater tables, destabilize soils, and disrupt ecosystems. Will the new water law include environmental impact assessment as part of future borehole licensing? But in summary, Cross River's decision to reclaim order in the water sector is laudable, but its success will depend on how inclusive, enforceable, and sustainable the new law turns out to be. So as we follow this story, we'll be asking, Will the government create a water regulatory agency with the real enforcement powers or strengthen the ones already on ground to function optimally? And what happens to existing unregulated boreholes? Will they be shut down or retrofitted? We'll also be looking at how will the rural poor be protected from potential water commercialization? Because in the end, access to safe water isn't just a developmental goal, it's a human right. And it's also a call to other Niger Delta states to take their various water sectors seriously, as it directly affects health and well-being. Well, that's our appraisal this afternoon on our story of interest. Stay with us as we bring you more updates in our Niger Delta Updates segment next. Well, first on Niger Delta Update today, the former Attorney General of Akwa Ibom State, Barrister Victor Yanam, has called on the federal government to introduce electronic filings across the judiciary to boost documentation and accessibility. In an interview with our correspondent, Barrister Yanam referenced political influence and institutional corruption as key factors delaying justice delivery and undermining public trust in the system. He also urged the appointment of more judges to strengthen the work of the Court of Appeal, which currently operates over 20 divisions nationwide. Here's what they said.
Some of those procedures have been entrenched in the High Court rules. So some of the states, Akwa Ibom State is one of them, have entrenched electronic filing, but it's yet to be implemented. So I'm sure as time goes on, they will work out the modalities. One of the pillars of justice is that what you are doing should, in the eyes of the right-thinking members of the public, sound right, look right, must be seen to be doing justice. So if reasonable members of the society do not believe that you are doing justice, justice has to be transparent. And this corruption is at every level. And the corruption does not necessarily have to be by the judges or magistrates.
Well, next on the Niger Delta Updates, a youth-focused organization, Africa's Hub for Skills and Enterprise Development, has launched a new initiative to curb pipeline vandalism in the Niger Delta by training young people in digital and entrepreneurial skills. So through its program Project SSE, Secure the Pipeline, Secure the Future, Establish the Future, the organization targets oil-producing communities where poverty and unemployment have led many youths into oil theft. So speaking after a sensitization campaign in Ijaw Delta State, the founder of the organization Wisdom Gogovia disclosed that the program aims to tackle the root causes of vandalism by providing alternatives for self-reliance. According to reports, Nigeria lost over $12 million to pipeline vandalism between 2018 and 2023. But the group says the initiative will empower youths to thrive in the digital economy and reduce oil theft in the region. Moving on now, the Supreme Court has reserved judgment in the appeal filed by the People's Democratic Party PDP and its candidate Ijaw Youth challenging the election of Edo State Governor Monday Okpebholo of the All Progressives Congress APC. Well, the PDP is asking the Apex Court to overturn earlier judgments by the tribunal and the Court of Appeal, which upheld Okpebholo's victory in the September 2024 governorship election. The party argued that the election did not substantially comply with the Electoral Act and that they secured the majority of lawful votes. However, INEC and the APC have asked the court to dismiss the case, citing inconsistencies in the PDP's arguments and lack of credible evidence. A five-member panel led by Justice Garba Lawal heard final arguments and disclosed that a date for judgment will be communicated. This one calls for sober reflection while following a settlement dispute between Nigeria and Cameroon, which relinquished the Bakassi land and handed it over to Cameroon by the International Court of Justice. Millions of people of Nigerian origin relied on government at all levels to address their issues of shelter, welfare and livelihood. But almost 20 years now, thousands of Bakassi returnees in Bayelsa State are yet to be resettled and reintegrated properly, making life miserable for them. One of the victims speaks about their experience, and this is just a snippet of a full report that we will bring to you later.
You can see that I'm doing what I snail just to survive with my children, so that I can even pay their school fee, to put on food in our table. Our mothers, they pick ragulis before they feed, they survive for the day. So I beg, some of them, they don't old. Like now, this my neighbor here now, she even they sick. Nobody to buy her drugs. No when somebody not get children them. Now so it be, so I beg, they plead. Anybody when we say we fear assist. Mostly the old people. Make our president, make him just put eye to this deport. We when we say be the deportees, making help us. I beg.
Really sobering story there. We're hoping that the government will swing into action and ensure that they are resettled effectively. That's the size of Niger Delta updates for today. And when we take a breather and return, we'll be turning our sights on the path to Rivers' political stability, bringing you updates as regards what is truly the situation of things in Rivers State. So stay tuned. Thank you for staying tuned. Well, let's turn our focus to Rivers State in order to examine the delicate balance between leadership, peace and public interest in the state and the region. It is no news that calm is gradually returning to the state after months of political turmoil. But at the center of this renewed stability is what some describe as a strategic compromise, an alleged one-term deal that facilitated Governor Siminalayi Fubara's reinstatement. While groups like the Ijaw Youth Council have raised concerns over the constitutionality of such an arrangement, other observers argue that this political concession may have been the price of peace, seen as a necessary trade-off to end months of division, uncertainty and paralysis in governance. Could it be that this is not about curtailing Fubara's rights, but rather about preserving the fragile unity of a deeply divided state? In a region where leadership tussles have too often led to violence and instability, is it not wiser to prioritize peace and gradual reconciliation, even if it requires temporary compromises? Well, joining us on the program is the IYC spokesperson to establish whether this single-term understanding is a betrayal of democracy or a bold step towards sustainable stability in Rivers and across the Niger Delta. Bedford Berefa, LYC spokesperson, joins us virtually. You're welcome on the program. Thank you for joining us.
All right, thank you very much for having me on this program. The issues in Rivers State, we have raised concerns over the issues anyways, but now that peace is returning is a welcome development. First and foremost, kudos to both parties for giving peace a chance. However, the stringent measures for this peace to be achieved is what we are questioning. It is speculated. We have not seen a document where he signed that is one tenor that is going to be governor for one tenor. He will not contest for second tenor. There is no constitutional provision for that. However, we have not seen a written document where the governor Fubara signed to say that after my tenure, I'm not going to contest elections again. There is no document of such. So of course that speculation is there, but we know that speculation, if it is true, it is not constitutional. It's not what it is not protecting the interest of the people. Of course, governance is anchored. Democracy in Nigeria is anchored on the people, and when the people's rights and privileges is being deprived, that is no longer a democracy, and that is no longer acceptable. However, for us, we don't want to delve into these delicate issues. We want to see that peace, political peace and stability return in Rivers State, which is the ultimate paramount interest of all of us. Like the governor has rightly said, there is no sacrifice that cannot be done for the sake of peace. However, infringing on his personal rights and liberty to be a Nigerian and to contest and be voted for, that privilege is exclusively for every citizen of this country, and nobody can deprive anyone from contesting an election. For us, it is not time for electioneering, it is time for governance. That governance, democratic governance, return to Rivers State. That is the ultimate goal for us, and that will be, worth celebrating as a people.
All right, Mr. Berefa, you've laid out your points regarding your stance and the IYC on the developments recently in Rivers State. But then bring us some understanding as regards your position when we talk about the peace process that has been initiated in Rivers State. The governor has clearly stated that there's no sacrifice that is too big for him to pay to restore peace in Rivers State. And he has reiterated that in different fora. Would you say that the IYC would go against the position of the governor if, for instance, these speculations were to be true?
He is the governor of Rivers State. He's not the governor of Ijaw people. He's the governor of Rivers State. And it behooves on the governor to say there's no sacrifice too big for peace to be given, for peace to be enjoyed. And that is, we are going to toe that part. He's the leader of the state. And as Ijaw people, we are going to toe behind him, walk behind him, and give him all the necessary support for him to succeed as a governor. For now, like I said, it is not time for politics. When it's time for politics, we'll talk politics. This is a time where peace must be restored. Political peace must be restored in Rivers State, and the governor has done huge sacrifice. Anything other than this sacrifice that he's doing is not worth talking now. It's not worth discussing now. What is paramount is that democracy return in fullness in Rivers State. That is what is paramount. And the governor is the leader. We are going to follow him suit. We are going to walk behind him and ensure that he succeeds as the governor of Rivers State. That is all that we are going to be doing. But any other speculation right now that say it's a one-tenor system, I can tell you for free, those speculations, there is no constitutional provision to that. So those are the inconsequential. Those are part of the sacrifices that can be done for peace to be restored. However, when the time for politics comes, there's always an opportunity to have a review and also have a rethink. When that time comes, we'll discuss politics.
Well, Mr. Berefa, a lot of people and schools of thought believe that this entire issue in Rivers State and the crisis that came about it would have been averted if the governor, per se, had done the right things, and the other persons or other parties in the crisis had also towed the path of peace to avert what turned out to be a 6-month suspension and all of that. Do you think that this whole issues and the allegations that are trailing them would have been averted if peace was allowed to reign, even before the suspension?
The truth be told, the governor Fubara has been performing as governor of Rivers State. He has done very, very extremely exceedingly well. When every step that he took was legitimate, was constitutional. He had the constitutional right. He is the leader of the state. He is the chief security officer of the state. So he has followed the legitimate way, to govern Rivers State. You could see when the Solas visitor came in, they looked for every means to pin him down to issue of corruption, issue of embezzlement. They looked at every means to bring him down. There was nothing. He's tabula rasa. There was nothing to hold against him. So for me, he has done very, very well. Everything that he has done is legitimate. Of course, politics is a game of interest. When interests are being infringed, you could see some level of ambiguity and chaos. That is what has happened in Rivers State. I wouldn't want to dwell on the past. What has happened has happened. The way forward is that peace, political stability is returning to Rivers State, and that is much more than every other thing that we have been experiencing. I can tell you for free, Rivers people have lost 6 months of credibility, 6 months of legitimacy, 6 months of a constitutional democracy. And that is what Rivers State has lost out in 6 months. So we don't want to dwell on that. Let us look a way forward. Let us look a way to have a better Rivers State where unity, togetherness, oneness, and singular purpose being the driving force for Rivers State development.
All right, Mr. Berefa. Well, the peace process is already on ground, and there's a lot of hopes that it is going to be crystallized and would come to stay. But then, do you see loopholes or pitfalls that could cause some sort of disaffection and a reason for Rivers State to plunge again headlong into the crisis that it is trying to avert right now? And what are those possible steps that you can point to that you feel, if adopted by stakeholders and policy formulators, political gladiators in Rivers State, that can see to it that the peace that is being formulated currently comes to stay?
That a certain group of persons are interested in the commonwealth of Rivers State, and they have succeeded in, I wouldn't want to use the word strangulate the governor, but they have succeeded, in bringing this level of conditions. However, the governor, in his wisdom, has said, let's give peace a chance. And that is what of course, there is no, every process there must be certain concerns, and I know those concerns are being raised in forums and in private meetings and all of that. When governor returns as governor of Rivers State, I know the toga of leadership is upon him, and the responsibility to sustain that peace is upon him. And I know fully well that he has learned and he has known the characters of stakeholders and every other gladiators in Rivers State, and he knows how to play his card rightly. For us, we are going to give him that necessary support. Whenever he calls on us to give him that support, we will ensure that peace and stability continue in Rivers State. And any other loophole is politics. Politics, there is nothing that is permanent in politics. There's nothing that cannot be reviewed in politics. When it comes on board, I'm sure there's going to be certain reviews that will be done collectively and holistically for the good of Rivers State.
Well, I don't know if you found that video that saw the Governor Siminalayi Fubara and FCT Minister Nyesom Wike in the same room and giving that statement after that meeting in Abuja. Was it interesting to you? And what were the points that you noted that stood out for you in those comments that they made? Some people say that some of the comments that were made were not entirely honest. It was just for the cameras. Do you share that perspective? Or were there honesty that you could pinpoint from the voices of the men that spoke that day?
No, Nigerian is politics. Everything is politics in Nigeria. There's nothing. Politics is selfish. It's a selfish interest, and everything that you see that is everything you saw there was a man ego being massaged and a man's interest being protected, and that is what politics is, and that is what played out in that. And that for us, we are happy that that level of unity, that level of meeting held. We have been looking forward towards that meeting, and the meeting has held. However, there must be some checks and balances. There must be some letting go and upholding, and that is what has taken place in Rivers State. It's sad to note that Nigerian politics is hinged on just three categories. The president, he says it all. The Senate, the National Assembly is where it is, and also in Rivers State, we cannot negotiate. The position of Minister of FCT, Nyesom Wike, is a powerful man, and that is what has played out. That is the reality. I can tell you for free. The level of selfish positioning and all of that. But for us as a people, we will say anything that the governor has said, any position that the governor has taken, we, for the love of the government and the love of Rivers State, we abide by the same. But in the issue of integrity, we know everything that has been going on is all politics. And politics is deceitful, politics is selfish, and politics in Nigeria, it is what it is. And it's sad to note. But we hope that there will be a change. However, even look at the people set of persons that are going to form a new party. We see 77-year-old man is saying that he wants to be the chairman of an opposition party. What are we saying? Nigerian politics is bastardized. The onus lies on us as youth to change the narrative. And if you are ready, we will change the narrative in due time.
All right. Well, another very significant point that you've raised borders on democracy and how it is pertinent to uphold it to the fullest. Now, the issue of whether who is making more of the compromise here comes to play. Do you think that other parties, apart from the governor, Siminalayi Fubara, are committed fully to this peace process and are willing to make commensurate compromises to see to it that peace is restored in Rivers State? Or is it just the governor that is interested in peace?
What you have seen that the both parties are affected dearly with this sole administration. So of course, the peace is a give and take for both parties. But we know that our governor is more of a sacrificial lamb. That is what we see, and that's what we know. However, it is what it is. We know that the power person on that end is Barrister Yenso Wike. He is the Baruka in that end, and he is the father in according to Ijaw Palace. He is the one that anything he says goes, and he has said this is what it is, and all those people are falling in line, and that is what it is, my brother. We know that the sacrifices made so far, Governor Siminalayi Fubara has made huge sacrifices. Also, the other party also made that sacrifices. Nevertheless, however, the peace of Rivers State is what is the goal.
Okay, well, talking about the role of the people in all of this, considering we're running a democracy, do you think that the voices of the Rivers people have been given that pride of place? Have they had a say in what is happening in their state and the decisions that are being made thus far? Or is it just a circle that are responsible for these decisions?
Brothers, people were never carried along from the beginning. The issue of sole administratorship, we advocated, agitated, and it has come to nothing. Obviously, the voices of Rivers people have been suppressed, and that is the reality. The civil servants are oppressed and suppressed. The Rivers people are just handicapped, as it were. Of course, we have given our vote right. We have given our right to the governor. We voted for him, and we know that he carries the conscience of over 10 million Rivers people. And whatever decision he has taken on behalf of 10 million, over 10 million Rivers people. And we abide by that. I know the Rivers governor, Siminalayi Fubara, is the people governor. He has the interest of the people at heart. And whatever decision that he's making or he has taken, I know that he will protect the interest of Rivers people.
All right, as we drive this conversation home, man, I want you to speak to the soul of democracy and what we see is obtainable in Nigeria currently. Well, a lot of changes, as you have rightly put it, are needed currently for us to be able to reach that goal that we so much desire when you talk about development and growth in the nation. Now, I want you in just 1 minute to give us insights to what you expect of the leaders and the crop of leaders of today in Nigeria and the efforts that are supposed to be put in place towards ensuring that we have a truly egalitarian society that we are dreaming of achieving.
Well, I can tell you for free that Nigeria, we are not operating in democracy. There's no democracy in Nigeria. It is just a government for the elite by the elites. The dictatorship, government that we are experiencing first time in history in Nigeria, where Nigeria is gravitating towards a one-party system, and that is not healthy for our democracy.
Well, Mr. Berefa, I ask for solutions.
All their interest is what they will get, and there is no genuinity. There is no all the that are responsible, the gatekeepers.
If we could chart a way forward, that is what I'm looking at right now.
In the democratic system has woefully failed, has allegedly failed, as it were, because you can see clearly that the interest of the people is not put before. It's not in the fore of our democracy. But we hope that Nigeria will get better when the youth are determined to be self-reliant, are determined to be private-driven, are determined to have a voice. For now, there is no voice. There is no voice. Every other voice that has been suppressed is only what the system needs. The system gets.
Well, Mr. Berefa, I'm curious to find out, is it that are you being sentimental because you are an Ijaw man, or you're speaking from your soul as a Nigerian who truly wants to see effective change in the country?
Patriotic Nigerians, some of those national assembly, they don't have any business being there. They are not patriotic. We have youth in our government circle that are not patriotic. There is no agenda. There is no desire for development. There is no consciousness. The poor are getting poorer, the rich is getting richer. That is the reality. That is the reality. Poverty is now weaponized to a point, is now a comfortable situation in Nigeria. It is very unfortunate.
Right.
It's very unfortunate. Like I said,
all right, Mr.
the
Berefa.
onus lies on the youth. We are the people that can change the narrative. 2027 election will not allow retired
Mr. Berefa, thank you. Thank you very much, IYC spokesperson Bedford Berefa. Thank you very much for your insights on the program. We're truly banking on the true peace, true development and growth that we hope to see, not just in the Niger Delta region, but in Nigeria as a whole. We'll take a breather, and when we return, our next lap of the conversation would have us speaking on culinary givings within the Niger Delta region, here specifically in Akwa Ibom.